Okay, this edition of Taco Tuesday is all about the emergency taco. I mean, what you need when you come into the house and you are starving, you don't have very much in the refrigerator at all, and you don't have much time, or you're just going to pass out. So I'm going to show you what my emergency taco is in that situation. I always have a can of black beans in the refrigerator, and probably by now you know that I'm a guy that will have some lard in the refrigerator, fresh rendered pork lard. You can use oil for this if you want it, but it's not nearly as delicious as the one when you do lard. Okay, so I'm going to put some lard into a pan here and turn the heat on to about a medium high here because I want to get it going. And then I've got a little bit of chopped garlic that's going to go in there once that lard is hot. And then I'm just going to pour the black beans in there, and that's going to be the base of my taco here. But we're going to garnish it with two different things. One is going to be a salsa, and the other is going to be some cheese. Okay, so here's your choices. I've thrown out some different ideas here, the things that you might have in your refrigerator. This is just crumbled goat cheese. This is like a queso fresco, or you could use a queso añejo. And when you're talking about that, you could always go to Parmesan or Romano cheese. This is a little bit of feta cheese, so you could use that if you have it. You want something that's going to pack some punch, and that's why I've chosen three sort of high acid cheeses that are going to be really, really flavorful. Okay, our lard is hot now, so we'll put the garlic in there. Let that cook until it's just, until it's just flavorful, aromatic, smells like garlic, but not long enough for it to do any browning at all. And then I pour my can of black beans in there. And now I'm going to mash it. You can use like an old-fashioned potato masher. I've got a kind of fancy old-fashioned potato masher here, which I think works really well for this kind of a thing. It's like a bean masher that you'd find in Mexico. And once I get it to a coarse puree, which doesn't take much time, I'm just going to let it simmer till it's thick enough, and we'll talk about salsa here. Okay, so let's leave that. We'll come back to it in a minute and see where it is in terms of both consistency and thickness. I like it to be a little coarse, like I said. Okay. Now on to talk about salsa. I always have some kind of Mexican hot sauce in my refrigerator, and you can easily use that, and that's super fast and easy. Valentina is one variety or one of the brands that you will see a lot in the Mexican grocery stores, even in a well-stocked regular grocery store. This is Tamazula. It happens to be my favorite of all of those. Some people prefer Buffalo brand, three of the most widely distributed of all of the Mexican hot sauces. But I usually have some tomatillos in my refrigerator, and I usually have some kind of green chili. Today I'm going to do this with a jalapeno. So for doing this really fast tomatillo salsa, I'm going to roughly chop the jalapeno and put that in there, seeds and all. Standard Mexican style. You don't take the seeds and veins out because you're looking for it to give you that kind of heat. Now I've got tomatillos. When you buy them, of course, they'll have the papery husk on them. So take that off. Cut those into quarters, which I've got right here, and put those into the blender. If you're a garlic lover, you can just throw in raw garlic to this, but I find it just overwhelms it. So I take the 1 minute to put a couple cloves of garlic in the microwave, covered with water, and turn it on 1 minute. After that, they will be sort of like blanched garlic, and it takes all the bite out of the garlic. I let that cool down and then put that into the blender jar here. I'm going to give it a little salt, turn on the blender, Oh, one thing more. If you have cilantro, which I usually have in my refrigerator too, that will be no surprise to you, I will put some of that into it. And you'll notice here that the proportions on the ingredients are very flexible. You make it to suit your own taste. You like it really hot, put another chili in there. You like it really garlicky, go to 3 or 4 cloves of garlic. Sometimes I'm really in the mood for cilantro, so I'll put a big handful of that in there. And now I'm going to just make a kind of coarse puree out of this mixture as well. That doesn't take very long at all. And salsa is done. Okay. It's not done completely for me, but it's really good just like this. And I think everybody that I know in Mexico makes a salsa like this as their sort of emergency salsa. For me, what I'm going to do is to make it a little bit more together in consistency by putting a little bit of avocado in it. But you can skip this part of it if you want to. And loads of people in Mexico certainly do that. But I'm going to take about a half of an avocado here and scoop that into the blender and then blend that up. And what'll happen is it'll get mixed right in there and it'll make it into a kind of creamy salsa. Okay, I'm going to give it 1 pulse more and that'll do it. Okay, so that's our kind of emergency salsa made a little bit more gourmet with the use of some avocado. So this stuff is looking really good right now. Now I like, when I'm making fast fried beans like this, I like to make sure that I've added enough garlic to it to give it some kind of interest and flavor. And again, if you're using fresh rendered pork lard, leftover bacon fat, perhaps the fat that you've rendered out of chorizo sausage, you will have even more flavor in this. Okay, I'm going to set this to the side now. And we're about ready to build our taco. I'm going to give this a taste here. Now I made it pretty spicy with 1 large jalapeno, so oh, it's so good, so fresh. It's not only my emergency salsa, it's one of my favorite salsas. Okay, so let's take some tortillas, put them onto a plate here. Sometimes I'm so hungry when I make these, I don't even use a plate. Okay, so lay those down there. We'll take a spoonful of our beans. Look at the consistency, is just about right for me now. So we'll put a spoonful down and another spoonful down. I'm going to use this feta cheese today. Just a little bit for all the way down here. Now goes this creamy, fresh tomatillo avocado salsa. And then, since we use cilantro in the salsa, you'll have a little cilantro left over. So you can just throw some leaves of cilantro over the top of it. And I'll tell you, an emergency taco never tasted so good.